right, guys. Well, welcome back. And this is going to be the first official podcast where we actually call it what the new podcast name is. We call it PMOP, the Film Lab Podcast, which PMOP is kind of short, an acronym for Proven Methods of Production, which is kind of our tagline. It's one of the things that we first started out with the brand. So anyway, PMOP, the Film Lab Podcast, here we are. And today's guest, you guys know him, you love him, but not as much as I do. It's my business partner, Mike Every. Mike, thanks for coming on, bro.
Thanks, homie. Always like being on the pod, you know, especially now that it's got a new sick name.
I know. We haven't got to film in here yet together. So I think the last time you and me filmed was probably 2 years ago, about.
Yeah.
Maybe a year and a half.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so way too long because this really is our podcast. I'm just the lucky one who gets to sit down here and talk with people while you're just running the business, making it happen.
There we go.
Well, guys, today, the reason I wanted Mike to be able to come on the podcast is because obviously, Mike, I think you have become an unbelievable salesman of creative services. And for those listening, being able to be good at what you do isn't enough. It's not going to get you work. It's not going to bring opportunities. Yes, it might bring awareness and all that stuff, but when the clients come, how are you actually selling them? What's your process? Are you able to upsell them? Are you able to set restrictions and expectations around what you're doing for them? There's a whole host of things that have gone wrong and can go wrong when trying to sell creative services. And I think Mike is one of the best people out there because not only have I seen him sell $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 packages, I've seen him sell six-figure packages and do it in a way that the client walks away just absolutely stoked, which I've never had people want to give me six figures and be happy about it.
I love people giving me money.
Yeah. And you're good at it, right? Because you start with value. So before we go into that, I want to tell you guys a little bit about Mike. I'm going to brag about him for a sec. And Mike, you just, obviously chime in, share the story.
I'll just sit here and soak it.
Yeah, soak it in, man. Well, Mike and I have been close friends for the past 13, 14 years.
Probably 15.
15 years now? Sheesh, time flies, man.
Be 15 years this year.
Sheesh.
So I'll be married for 14 this year.
So what you guys might not know is Mike married my nanny. that was basically like my older sister growing up. And I remember, she babysat us when we were young. And then as we got older, my parents didn't trust me in high school. So they obviously had Carrie Anna come hang out at the house, watch us kids. And we were stoked. Parents are going away means our sister Carrie Anna's coming over. We loved it. And historically, we never liked the guys that she dated because they weren't you, obviously.
There's some bad ones. So the bar was not high, but I'll take that.
But I mean, we were extra hard on them because we loved Carrie Anna, right? And one day she brings home this guy named Mike, and we all freaking fell in love with you immediately. Thought this is the coolest guy ever. And from there, obviously, you guys got married, and we stayed in touch for a long time. Yeah. And I remember us, there were times where you mentored me, you encouraged me to, drop out of school, which was not a common thing, and encouraged me in business and a lot of different things. And I remember there was times where we kind of talk about going into business together, but I was like, Mike's just being nice because what you guys don't know is Mike has been majorly successful in his career from, being in large corporate at McDonald's and managing things to working your way up through Costco. And then obviously to the point of owning several Paul Mitchell schools and being a partner in those, which was really, really cool. Yeah. So I'll let you kind of take the story from here, but I think that backdrop's important. And then talk a little bit about obviously you coming over and then really kind of the experience of coming from a corporate, more structured, larger scenario and selling, classes and services and things like that to now having to go into selling creative services, kind of what that experience was like.
Yeah. Man, that's such a loaded question. I'll try to answer that. But I think honestly, because a lot of my experience has always been operations, finance, leadership, a lot of marketing. But I always looked at it from a viewpoint of a consumer. Or like from either a financial background or like an ops background. I never have really dove into like learning the creative side of what it takes to pull something off. And so obviously now being part of Film Lab for a few years, it's really grasping what it takes to pull off really high level creative, it's just completely opened my mind. And it makes me think, it's like, wow, we don't charge enough. Sometimes, even though, like, I know there's, tons of people out there, they're like, how do you guys charge, more or whatnot? So, but it's been really helpful for myself to kind of, when I'm talking to clients, because like we talk to some creative directors, but I feel like a lot of times we're talking to, the CEO or
Marketing
CFO
directors.
or COO or CMO. And that's kind of my background, like that C-suite of, so I think of things a lot more of how they process things and how they think things. And I think that's honestly a lot of our superpower is you've got, you with a crazy amount of creative experience in the multiple companies you've had and the experiences you've had, also a little bit of corporate as well. And then you add me to that of kind of more of like an ops finance, kind of consumers background. It really really pushes us to look at things a lot different. And I really just feel like, having that cohesive, like, just back and forth, like what's best, what's a good idea. Cause there's been times, where you've like, man, I think that's too much. I think we're charging too much. And I'd be like, no, dog.
You're like, they'll bite.
They'll bite. And majority of the time they do. And so, I think just being able to understand a little bit of that world and what it takes, especially now understanding more of what it takes to pull off the creative side, like it's been really impactful. And we've seen a lot of success from 2024. Give you just some quick numbers that are not public. So this is insider info. But man, I mean, we ran about a 34% increase in last year compared to the previous year. And
2023, we did $1 million. So do the math.
Yeah. Finished the year just shy of 1.35. And so to kind of have us, increase that amount. And obviously, we've invested so much more into the company, have it be for gear, have it be employees, just everything.
Production van, studio.
Yeah. I mean, you name it of what we've been able to do. And that's obviously what's gotten us here. And so we try to take care of our people because it's what's most important.
That's right. So Mike, obviously you got a little bit into what we're doing and what makes us we call it the 1-2 punch.
A 1-2 punch.
Mike comes in, he's like, hey, as a C-level guy, I get where you're at. You need an ROI. You need us to understand your problems. Let me really take a second and dissect that. You take that, bring that information to me. We work together, bring in the creative team, and we come up with a creative pitch that addresses their concerns and their needs and does it in a creative way that makes them go, wow, I've never seen my company or my product or my service in this kind of a way. Like, this is really exciting. And then, it all comes together.
Yeah.
But, I think, like, just quick story time, you came on, part-time a couple of years ago, and we're coming up on about 2 years of you being full-time. The sacrifices that you've made and everything, and also the growth coming on. And what I think a lot of people don't know is, like, they don't know how to sell, period. But then selling creative services is just an extra hurdle that's difficult because it's very hard to define the value of creative.
Yeah.
And so obviously, like, I think when you first came on, you had kind of the core skill sets and knowledge of building a relationship is essential. Understanding what their problem is and what the solution could look like is really, really big. And so you were able very quickly to start garnering relationships with individuals and kind of building that trust. But then there's obviously the learning curve of understanding what do these deliverables entail?
Yeah.
What's the difference between just creating a 30-second social ad versus a larger campaign? What are all the elements of that? And so we had to go back and forth and figure out pricing, figure out the time investment, figure out all that stuff. And so, like, that in and of itself was a learning curve. But I think now we've sent out enough pitches, we've done enough of this, and we've had enough success that, I think, we had a 34% growth last year. dare I say, we can do even better than that this year because of what we've learned.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought we could walk through what our creative sales process looks like from start to finish. How are we attracting clients? How are we bringing in these leads? Because we don't really do a lot of outbound stuff.
We do hardly zero. I mean, we spend $0 for leads.
Yeah, which is wild.
Everything is referral, repeat client.
Which is pretty sweet.
Which is absurd.
So walk through a little bit about what that process looks like, and keep in mind who's listening, the audience, of like how they could maybe apply that to their creative service businesses. These might be designers, might be filmmakers, photographers. What can they do as solo people to apply some of these concepts, and how do we get these leads, and then how do we cultivate them?
Yeah. I think in the beginning, what you and I really hit home, and we still do to this day, it's all about the people. And my focus last year was showing up. I mean, I probably would go to 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, like networking events a week. Have it be a lunch meeting, have it be another event that someone's putting on, but just showing up. And I think that if you kind of compare it to, some of the successes we've had from social or LinkedIn, it's just about telling who you are. And eventually, when you've said who you are enough times to enough people, it's just a snowball compound effect. And just like in the marketing world, before someone buys an item or chooses this service, like they need to see it, 7 to 12 times, like for their mind to actually make a decision. And I think just between, events that you'd go to, the ones I'd go to, posting on LinkedIn, social media, and I would just say, don't sleep on LinkedIn.
Oh, LinkedIn is wild.
LinkedIn has been so good for us. I mean, I don't know a number, but gosh, I would be surprised if 20 to 30% of our jobs last year didn't come from LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
Like just
which I'd say is comparable to Instagram.
Yeah.
No,
really. That's a good point. So I think that's kind of what at least my focus was on, because at the end of the day, I'm 100% a people's person. And so I'm going to go with what I know, because I don't know cameras. But I know what looks good, and I know what people at the end of the day want to achieve. And so that's kind of what my main focus was in the beginning, was just focus on the people, and the success will follow.
Yeah. And I mean, you think about, like you said, this last year and a half, especially as we kind of applied the showing up principle that we talked about. Yeah, we did it on socials. We did it in person, and it got to the point, and we did this as like a 2-man army, and obviously really supported by the team who helped create social content and stuff for us. But at the end of the day, it was you going to events, it was me posting on socials, you as well. And I was getting comments from friends all over the place. They're like, Film Lab is everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about it. And really, yeah, maybe that's true, but it's because, yeah, if at any given month, you're being seen, you at a networking event in public, probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 times.
Yeah.
And if we're posting at least 2, 3, 4 times a week on social, there's a chance that somebody's getting hit with something by us, 10 to 15 times a month.
Yeah.
So we're top of mind. So when a video comes to mind, the need comes to mind for them, or they know somebody, who are they going to think of? They're going to think of Mike from Film Lab, Mitch from Film Lab, the team at Film Lab, right? And so it was just that consistency that really brought it home.
Yeah. And to add one thing that I think that is kind of a funny detail, but it's 100% true. This was not planned when we filmed this, but this shirt, dude, this shirt, I would wear this shirt to events. And when you have a 300-pound bald man wearing like a paisley crazy shirt,
who's hot as freak,
I wouldn't say that, but I appreciate it.
Carrie Ann agrees with me.
Like people remember that. And so, and same thing with like this orange hat. I'm obviously double dipping right now, but like just wearing something that's recognizable, that like makes you a little more like poppy, like you stand out. Like, I mean, I have so many people that will just come up to me and be like, dude, that's a freaking sick shirt, or that hat is freaking dope. And
I mean, how many people we had our last event and dudes were like taking them off the shelves and Venmoing us after without even asking because they were just freaking pumped, man.
And I was like, yo, you got to pay for that, homie. No, but I think just having something that just makes you a little more easily recognizable. Cause yeah, man, I've like, it's easy for someone to be like, oh yeah, I know Mike, so he's that guy in the Paisley shirt. Can't miss him.
Yeah.
And you know, someone will come up to me and be like, hey, you're Mike with Film Lab. So-and-so told me to talk to you. And I'm assuming you're the only guy wearing a Paisley shirt here. So, not saying to go buy a Paisley shirt. That's my
but he's not saying that.
But I'm not saying it. But the funny thing, not to get like too cheesy, but I don't buy like super nice clothes normally. This is literally the most expensive shirt that I own. And when I saw it on the rack, it was like I saw it and I was like, that's a dope shirt. And then I kept on walking, and then it was like something like just freaking pulled me back to this shirt. And then I like looked at it, and it was like $120 or something like that. Like never in my life, like growing up in my adult life, even when I like had my own money, I was like, would ever spend that amount of money on a shirt. But it was like, God was just like, you got to buy that shirt.
Dude, now, you know, we need to go and like rub the shirt.
Yeah.
For good luck or for a sales call, because it just works.
It just works, dude. It just works.
No, I think there's something about that. And what that really is referencing is having a brand, right?
Yeah.
Having something that's recognizable, things that you're known for. Because yes, it's about the shirt, but it's more about the guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's more about, you know, the way you would connect with people, the way you would make them feel. You know, it's the whole, you know, people remember how you make them feel more than anything else. And that's so true. 100%. So obviously with the Film Lab orange hat, with your personality, the great shirt, whatever, you stuck in people's minds, and they'd had enough interaction with you in person. With us on socials, it made a big difference. So do not sleep, to all the creators out there, do not sleep on taking advantage of the opportunity to share your own story, to walk through the services that you provide. If you do not sell yourself, if you do not make other people aware of what you do, then you cannot really expect them to refer work and opportunities to you, you know? And you don't have to do it in an annoying way. Yeah. You don't have to be reaching palms out, asking for work, but you can come in and you can say, hey, my name's Mike. What are you working on? I'm really interested in who you are and what you're building. What, you know, you're being curious about them. And as they share all those things with you, they're going to then turn around and be like, well, Mike, tell me about you. What are you doing? What are you building? And then as you share, they're interested, you build that relationship. And then obviously the leads and opportunities come in. So without beating the horse on ahead too much, you know, beating it to death, like I just think consistency, building brand is important. So post, share, let people know what you're doing, but be genuine about it, and you're going to be amazed at what comes.
Yeah, and I'd add to that too. Don't sleep on an event if you think it's not the right fit. Like any event has new potential clients in it. Doesn't matter if you don't think it's part of your niche, but just like I remember I went to this finance event and I showed up in like a hoodie, a hat, and like jeans. Every other person there was wearing a suit. Like it was like, I felt so awkward when I like walked into this space. Everyone's just in these nice suits, and it's just full of finance dudes. There's probably 100+ people there, and everyone that's new, like their first time, they always do an intro. And I remember my intro was like, hey, look, I know I'm underdressed, but that's because I'm not a finance guy, even though I am a finance guy. But it's like in that space, in the process of like getting new leads, it was like, hey, I'm Mike. I'm from Film Lab. We're a creative production studio, and we make sick stuff. And you don't want your creative agency to be wearing a suit and tie every single day. Like, no, you want them to be freaking low key, having fun, creative, and that was a great event. I had a ton of people talk to us and connect and network, and never would have thought to go to a meeting at some bank, you know, with a bunch of people. Like it was pretty dope. So, but
I'm sure they loved it. Yeah. And you stood out, and
it was good.
You know, so people skills is big, and you're very good at that. If you guys ever get to watch Mike at a networking event, it's like a masterclass. So enjoy. But okay, let's get into that. That's how to like attract leads. And then obviously there's other basic things that you guys should be aware of. Posting on social media, huge. Do not sleep on LinkedIn. You need to build a website where people are aware of your services. They have a way to get more information about what you do. Also, just be able to get in contact with you. One of the great things about Mike and what I tried to do, but it was so great to be able to hand off this responsibility to Mike when he came on, was to just say, I need you to handle these emails. And Mike is replying to people always within 24 hours, if not sooner, of them reaching out to us at Film Lab. So if they're reaching out to 6 different creative agencies or film production companies, and only 1 or 2 of us are getting back within 24 hours, I mean, that already puts us in the top finalists, of opportunity, because sometimes we're getting on a call or maybe even our second call with people before some of these other guys are getting back. And it's not because anybody's too busy. It's because they're lazy or they don't have the systems in place. So be accessible, be reachable. Mike and I are on the phone all the time. We're constantly responding to DMs, and we're making sure that people can contact us and connect with us so that these leads and opportunities aren't slipping through the cracks. So again, do yourself a favor, make it as easy as possible for somebody to contact you and find out more about what you do. But once they do, and once they've reached out and said they want to talk more, walk me through the process of maybe some questions you ask. How do you kind of determine the scope of what they're looking for and figure out how to help solve their problem? Because if they're coming to us, whether that's for design, for a podcast, for some motion, for a video production, it's probably because they have a problem they're trying to solve or a need that is needing to be addressed.
Yeah. And so what I do is I kind of walk them through like, hey, this is a discovery call.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're here for a reason, and I want to be as intentional as possible, and considerate of everyone's time and knowledge as well. And so really I kind of just do a quick brief walkthrough of what Film Lab is, who we are, what our specialties are, and examples of what we've done for other clients. Because so many times, like I've had people be like, oh, you take photos too? Or like you do podcasts too. And so,
and to us, we think it's a given.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of people just think we do mainly video, which is accurate, but at the same time, we do a lot of different things. And so I always kind of do a run through at that. And then I always ask just a lot of different questions of who they are, what they're looking for, what problem they're trying to solve. And I also do my best to just do a quick research of that client, because
before you hop on.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we do everything on a video call, which to do a video call, I've got their email. And if I got their email, then I know for the most part what company they work at. And so I'll just do a quick dive into their website, look, what they do, what could they possibly be calling me for, and maybe look them up on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatnot. And so not only that, to like get familiar with that brand, but also maybe able to talk recommendations. Cause there's so many times I've been able to upsell something where I mentioned like, hey, I noticed you didn't have any videos on your website.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we didn't talk about that at all on this call. So are you wanting to get some case studies or explainer videos, or is there something else we can do to kind of support the website to better tell your story? And I think at the end of the day, most of the people that we talk to don't 100% know what they're trying to solve or what they're doing. And it's also different for every brand, because obviously if we're talking to an e-commerce brand, that's like, I want more sales, I want more money. And which we do a lot of that. But then I would say we do a majority of like, the branding, the telling the story, what helps tell their story to bring people to them as well. So I always just try to ask good questions.
I love that. So obviously, and I get to see your process all the time. You have a list of pre-built questions that you're like, if I have these 10 questions answered, then I'm going to have kind of the meat or the bones, at least, of what we need to know in order to give them creative recommendations on deliverables, on the services we can provide and whatnot. I know you usually try to get questions around what their budget is, figuring out what timelines look like, what's the problem you're trying to solve. Do you already know, I have an idea of what the deliverables need to look like? Is this used for ads? Is this just something for your website? What's the use case? So as you get all these questions answered, you have a pretty comprehensive list that you then kind of the next step and phase of the process is as you gathered all this information, you confirm it with them, and then you kind of bring it back to me and the creative team and kind of walk through what that process and brainstorm kind of looks like.
Yeah. So with that, we've kind of built out a template of questions that I try to fill in from that discovery call. And then from there, normally always then send it to like an email recap of, hey, did I understand this right? Is this what you're looking for? And there's a lot of times people just want to know a number right on that call.
Mm-hmm.
And 98% of the time, I never give a number. It's just like, if someone needs a number, it's like, here's our day rate, and we scale up or down from there. Because when it comes to production, as you know, but as probably some of the audience knows too, it's like you can make a Super Bowl commercial for multi-millions of dollars, or you can be like Kanye West and spend $0 on a Super Bowl commercial, So I think being able to have that templateized and walk through that, I'll fill it out, and then that's when I involve you a lot of like, hey, this is what they're thinking. This is the price I'm thinking. Here's the deliverables. Here's the scope of work. I think it's going to take a half day, a full day, 2 days, just to ensure I'm also not, under quoting or over quoting a production, because we also have a spreadsheet that will plug in some data, so we're not just always shooting from the hip. It's somewhat of a consistency with it, which I think is really good, just to be able to look back at it as well. When our producers are looking at after the project's complete, it's like, hey, we slated, post-production would take 20 hours on this. We ended up taking 40.
Right.
Did we go over revisions? Did we not get clarity on X, Y, and Z? And so we're always we're trying to just do better of identifying what that is. And so once we have a good idea of that creative brief, we put it together, and then I hand it off to the creative team with you and production crew.
That's right. So obviously we've kind of established the scope, and it really depends on the type of project.
Yep.
Some of the projects we're able to just like jump right in, say, okay, you want these deliverables, we can guesstimate this is going to take a day to shoot.
Yeah.
3 different talent, whatever, probably location. So we can come up with like a budget that we can feel confident in, even if we haven't clearly defined every step of the creative. We haven't built out all the scripts, whatever. We can then come back and say, hey, this is going to cost $17,500 because of X, Y, and Z. Here's how we laid out. Here's a deck. And we usually also give them, to your point, we also usually give them a couple of packages.
Yeah.
Here's what you asked for. And here's a lower package that is cheaper, but it requires way less work on our part.
Yep.
You get less. Here's something that's like what we'd recommend, which is like shooting for the stars, right? This is like all these extra deliverables, this extra time of our creative, whatever. And, we give them those options just like Apple does. We try to sweeten the deal. And sometimes they just go for that. But on some of these other projects, right, people reach out and say, hey, I want to create a campaign that helps introduce this innovative new software or product that we're releasing. And we want your help in the creative of doing that. So sometimes then before we even lock in the budget and the sale, we get into the creative process of, okay, let's ideate on a bunch of different concepts. And so we work with a really great writer named Mitch Winter. I also do a lot of collaboration with my brother Grayson, as well as Danny Garcia, who work here. And we kind of do this creative collaboration where we talk through what the project could look like. We throw out different concepts, whatever. And then you and me come back on a call with them and say, hey, I'm like, Mike filled me in. We work together as a creative team. Here's several different concepts or just creative ways we could approach this project. What resonates with you? Here's maybe a script or concept that's more humorous. Here's one that's maybe a little bit more straightforward, whatever. And we kind of present these creative options and pitches to them. And in that conversation, they are now seeing their product or their service or their tech that they're releasing in a whole new light, through a whole new lens. Because to them, they've probably been working on this project or this product for months, if not years. So it's kind of old news, but they are excited to get out there and launched. And so when you have this fresh perspective, something that feels cool, that's innovative, that like puts their whole product into a new paradigm or perspective, they're really stoked about it.
Yeah.
And we found that obviously when we come up with a really great creative concept or pitch, am I boring you, Mike?
No. I woke up at 3 a.m. this morning.
Mike's over here yawning.
And it's 8 p.m. right now.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's
dude.
right.
We just promised. Wait, I think it's 9. It's 9:21 p.m.
That clock's wrong. Oh, there we go. Okay.
So no, you've been up. I dragged you into this, but thank you for doing it.
Dude, nothing better.
But we have found that when we have a strong creative pitch and they are able to see that and they're getting excited about it, maybe when they were only willing to spend $25,000 before, they're willing to spend 50 or 60 because now they believe in what we're delivering. They're bought into the vision and the plan, and we're able to break down, hey, this is going to cost more because it's going to take more time shooting. It's going to require more props, locations, take more time editing. There's some animation in there, whatever. And now we've brought the value and given them a vision that they now cling on to.
Yeah.
And it's crazy as we've really emphasized the creative in the sales process, how many times we have upped the budget.
Yeah.
And I think more than often we've doubled the budget, if not more. So, and the creative is what justifies the cost. So I think that was a really big breakthrough that we had 100%. Probably the second half of last year.
And another layer to that too is we, instead of doing like the traditional, you pay me half now and then half when it's done, we treated it almost as like a payment plan. It's like, hey, here's a deposit, here's your next payment, here's your next payment. It's all laid out on the contract. And so when they get all this excitement and they see that higher price point, it's like, we have some projects where we're completely done with it, but that client still has a payment or two,
right?
After its completion. And we're able to do that because again, we try to operate in a positive cash flow of what we're doing and a plan accordingly of, what our expenses are going to be and whatnot. So, even though, by the time that we shoot it and the post-production's done, maybe we haven't made enough to cover what we put into it, but we will eventually
on the back end.
And I think since we've been doing that long enough now, it's really helped to manage our cash flow and make right decisions, knowing that we have money coming in. And then it also speaks to any finance team at any company.
Oh yeah,
they're like, oh, I can just allot X amount per month that I can just plan for, and then I don't have to worry about dropping a massive amount in the beginning. And obviously there's some larger productions, instead of doing an even split, we're like, hey, we actually need like 50% right now just to straight up cover, flights and talent. And this is a lot of times of like upfront costs that obviously we want to try to have most of it covered, but that's kind of where I think we've also won and helped be able to really spread and abroad to different clients.
Hey, I bought a $7,000 mountain bike because Klarna said all my payments only be $200 a month.
That's right. Gotta get that payment.
That's right. So, $100,000 production, there may be sticker shock, but they can swallow that if you're splitting it over 10 months of 10 grand a month, or 5 months at 20 grand a month or whatever.
And I was going to say the most we've ever done, I think, is 6 months.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
So it's gone well. Yeah. It's been successful. So again, I think like the big thing that a lot of us creatives struggle with is being able to articulate our vision and lay it out in a way that our clients understand what we're trying to accomplish, and we're showing them both the creativity and the way we're going to approach it, but also the kind of ROI, what it's going to actually do for them, and then make it as easy as possible for them to say yes. Yeah. That's what Mike and I have really tried focusing on, is like, this is a great creative idea. We're going to work with you on payments. We're going to spread it out in a schedule. We've articulated X, Y, and Z. We've done research. We've laid this out. And really at the end of the day, all they have to do is say, yeah, let's go for it. And we remove every obstacle possible. And we're following up with them like crazy. We give them pitch decks that they're able to visualize what we're pitching them and the way we want to approach it, the pricing, the budget, the timelines, everything, when we're going to deliver it. And then all they have to do is run that up the chain and get it approved. And most of the time when people see it, they say yes, and they're excited.
And to talk about those pitch decks, it is another layer to that secret sauce of our success is because for certain projects, we make that custom pitch deck.
Right.
And we brand it to match
their
brands. I know a lot of times, like I'll do a deep dive into their story if they have it on their website, where it's like, it talks about the founder and how, he grew up living in a car, or like, and then you try to customize that deck to match what the values they hold. I mean, there's so many times when I've put into project details or overviews of the project, like their company's mission statement.
Right.
And so it's like when they're reading it, it's like, okay, well, one, I resonate with that.
Yeah.
Because that's my
words.
That's my words. And then two, it shows them that we took the time to get familiar.
Right.
And whenever a prospective client recognizes that you've gone out of your way to get to know them more, even before getting the project, I think in the long run really pays it forward. And transparently, we're also doing it just to get to know them better, to better understand what they're looking for. Because it's kind of shocking when I think about it, but like we don't have many unhappy clients.
No. Like, and if they are unhappy, we address our problems head on.
Yeah.
We've learned to over communicate. We've learned, there's a hiccup. We just got an email that's kind of salty or things are weird. Either you're calling them or I'm calling them. And we just get out in front of it and say, hey, let's talk through this. Was there a miscommunication? Did we miss something?
Yeah.
And more often than not, it was just them misunderstanding something or us just needing a little clarity. And we're very much able to say, hey, let's take care of that right now.
Yeah.
Let's fix this. This is no problem.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how often it completely disarms them. We're like, oh my goodness, thank you so much. And we leave that conversation with a stronger relationship and rapport than ever.
Yeah. Or more money. because we'll say, hey, we can do that. We can fix it doing this direction or going that direction. And almost not, I don't want to say upsell, but like just finding a new alternative way to like animation, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been so many times where we'll be like, hey, animation wasn't part of the original scope, but if that's what you're envisioning, we can do that. We'll just charge a little bit more, which is not what we would normally charge because we want to take care of you and get this project done the right way.
Yeah.
And
they're pumped to throw an extra $5,000 at it, and it makes the video better and all that stuff. So I think just being able to know what you have in your pocket, how to solve problems, be able to communicate directly is so important.
Yeah.
So obviously we go from the leads that came in, the discovery call to understand what they're looking for. We infuse some of our creativity. We lay it out in a way that they can understand it, whether that's in just a general concept, that's a few paragraphs describing it, whether that's an actual script. We've done storyboards before, but we make sure that in our pitch deck, they can really visualize what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And then from there, like I said, it's make it as easy as possible to say yes. We lay out the budget for them. We send them over a contract that they can electronically sign. We use PandaDoc, which works really great. And then it kind of just flows right into our creative process. So after you get those things signed, you do a handoff to our producer and we're off to the races.
Yep.
And so I would say, like, again, the big things that creatives should take away from this is you need to get out of your own way. Stop, trying to be that obscure artist who's mysterious and things like that. They're starving artists for a reason. There's a lot of those. And if you can't sell yourself, if you can't talk about what you do, if you can't share that with people, you're never going to win. And then if you don't have systems to be able to help you through that sales process, to make it as easy as possible, to make that experience seamless for them, then again, you're reinventing the wheel over and over. It's going to be a clunky experience for them, and that's not inspiring trust. But if they can see through the sales process how easy and smooth that was, and they're now bought in to you, they feel like they have a relationship with you, then that just only makes the actual creative experience of doing the work and delivering it that much easier because you've built that rapport throughout the sales process.
Yep. Love it.
Yeah. So anyway, Mike, any last words or anything that you'd want to share with these creatives, like these individuals? Because I think you've learned a lot.
Yeah, I think it's smart to do an audit on how people can contact you. And then also, and that is meaning like, do you have the correct number on the website? Does the QR...
We didn't have a correct one
for a minute, yeah. Does the QR code still work? You know, just kind of like the basics of like, is Google correct? Is Maps correct? Is the website correct? Just doing an audit to ensure those are correct. And then also, I think part of the reason of where some of our success comes from is we get back to people. Mm-hmm. Like in some ways I'm kind of a robot, and it's like if there's an email, you know, it rarely happens that I let an email slip or not. And I think having someone with that mentality that can handle that is really, really important, because every lead you get, like you've got to treat it just like gold. Like you've got to make sure they get taken care of and followed up through. And we're not perfect at it, but I think majority of the time we're on top of that, and not forgetting it, and making notes when you're at events of like who you met, who they work, where do they work, and then adding them into that sales funnel and just having a process to ensure that they get checked in and followed up with.
Yeah. I mean, huge. That advice itself is worth its weight in gold. Yeah. So thanks for sharing, man. Well, obviously, I want to have you on the podcast more because we just talked about something that's very tactical, that's very specific as far as these sales processes and goals and things like that. But beyond that, in future episodes, I want us to talk a little bit more about what our vision is for Film Lab, how we're going to continue to build some of the things that we're learning. But I felt like this was something very specific that would hopefully be valuable to everybody listening who wants to be creative entrepreneurs or currently are running their own business. So thanks for sharing your advice, man.
Dude, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this episode. As always, please share, please like, please download these episodes. It does mean a lot to us. And if there's things that you guys want to hear in future episodes, topics you want us to discuss, individuals you want on the podcast, both from our team or maybe friends of ours out on the outside, please reach out, comment them on our videos. We are listening to you guys, and we want to give the best advice possible and hopefully bring you as much value as possible. So that's it for today, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, Mike.
Peem up. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, peem up.